Okay, low carb French fries, let's go. So what we'll need is 2 to 3 teaspoons of xanthan gum. That's this stuff here, super sticky if you get it on your fingers, so beware. We need 50 grams of coconut flour and 1/3 cup of shredded cheese. So I'm using mozzarella here. You can pretty much use any cheese you like. You're also going to need 100 ml of boiling water. So it's all super simple. You just grab a little mixing bowl. Add all the dried ingredients. And the cheese. Give it a bit of a swizz around. Then add your boiling water. Okay, I'll get a fork for this. The xanthan gum really does stick to your fingers, so this initial bit I like to just use a fork to get it mixing until we get a nice dough forming. And then in with the fingers to give it a bit of a knead. Okay, so what you're looking at is something a little bit like Play-Doh, but kind of sticky to the touch. Beautiful. So next stage is to pop that into the fridge to cool down. And the reason we do that is to let it firm up so it's easier to cut and to work with. Okay, this step isn't entirely necessary, but it keeps things a lot cleaner, so I like to cut. There we go, that way. A good healthy length of baking paper or parchment paper or whatever you call it where you're from. And that stops the dough from sticking and also makes it a lot easier to work with. Okay, I've given that 10, maybe 15 minutes to chill. So we've got a little bit firmer ball of dough. And so what I do is just slap that on baking paper, double that over, grab the old mother-in-law's revenge, and flatten that out to about 5 mil, or I'm not sure what that is in American, something of an inch. A little bit more. There we go, nearly 60 years old. I'm making cooking videos on YouTube. Where did it all go wrong? So there's our raw French fry mix. What you can do now is take a knife, or in this case I've got a pizza cutter, and then just cut strips. You just cut strips into the dough for the length of fries that you want to end up with. Okay, now they are a little bit fiddly to handle, but mark my words, it's worth it in the end. There we go, so I come straight through the middle. And make sure I can pick them up fine. That's working. I think the longer you leave it, the stickier they get, so you might want to work a little bit quickly. in this phase. Next you're going to need a frying pan. For the purposes of this exercise, I will use this little electric jobby. So now what we're going to need is some oil. Now olive oil, if you've got beef tallow or lard, that's even better. That will pop, and you need a fair old amount, because we're kind of shallow frying them, so we need plenty of oil, and it will take up a little bit of this, so the more you can add in, the better. So what I'll typically do now is just drop a little bit of the mix in to the oil and then wait to see it bubbling, which is doing almost straight away. Okay, that's looking more like it. So we'll get some of these bad boys in there. So what we're looking for is a nice golden finish. So it doesn't take very long at all, as you can see. Not quite done. Okay, and try and keep them separate because they will stick together if you're not careful. Okay, that's just about there. So now I'll just put them out onto some kitchen roll to drain off. If I was using beef tallow for this, I wouldn't bother because that's even more of a bonus. Okay, I'll finish the rest of these. So there we have it, a little lifesaver if you're trying to stay off the carbs. A pretty passable French fry or a chip if you're in England or Australia. What I certainly like to do is get a bit of vinegar on there. I can see you all wincing at the screen. Not to worry, they are sensational. So, okay, keto pizza, who knew? 4 easy steps, let's get into it. Okay, first of all, you're going to need 10 ounces or 3.5 cups of shredded mozzarella. I guess most cheeses will do, but mozzarella works really well, and 1 egg. Then we're going to need 1.5 cups of almond flour, some toppings, some pizza sauce. Then here we've got half a teaspoon of salt, we've got a teaspoon of garlic powder, we've got half a teaspoon of xanthan gum, we've got a teaspoon of baking powder, and we've got some Italian herbs, about a teaspoonful. The herbs and the onion powder are optional, but they just add a little bit of flavour to the base. first things first, what we do is we take the shredded cheese, and this is going to be a bit weird, but we put it into the microwave. And we whack that on high for 2 minutes. So while that's cooking, we just take the almond flour and all of the other dry ingredients, and then give them a good old whiz around. You can see I'm a professional chef. So out of the microwave, and we've got this lovely melted mozzarella. So it's lovely and stringy. And into that we crack our egg. In she goes. And then give that a good old mix. So I just keep scraping the sides down just to make sure we don't lose any of that cheese. So you see that's all combining well together. Although it's probably a bit hot. Okay, into that, very delicate, we just add our dry ingredients. Give that a bit of a stir. Okay, that will start to come together as a dough. And just scraping the sides of the bowl down. So you're going to put a decent dough. It's not too hot so I can get my fingers in. It's smelling really good already. Okay, next thing I'll do is split that in half. I've got my 2 dough balls. Well, we'll pretend they're dough anyway. Grab some baking paper. And another piece of baking paper. And then just roll that out into your pizza base. Okay, flatten that out. Oh, I should mention I've got some extra cheese here as well, just to go on top. Next, I'll just grab some pizza sauce and then give it a good lug. Brush it all around. Okay, you've probably made pizzas before. It's from this point on, it's just exactly the same. Grab my toppings, so a little bit of bacon, pepperoni, some tomato, capsicum, or bell pepper I think they're called elsewhere in the world, and I like mine hot, so I'll just add some chilies. And then top it off with some more mozzarella. So that's going to take around 10 minutes in an oven. I've forgotten what the temperature should be, so I'll put that on screen in a sec. There we go, bear with me, let's whack that in the oven. Keep checking on those every 5 or 10 minutes. You should take around 10 or 15 minutes to cook. So there we have it, easy keto pizza. Hey, hi there, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to do the easiest beef jerky you have ever seen. It's really good. If you're into hot stuff, it'll be right up your alley. If you're not, you can swap out the sauce I use and do something that's okay for you. So what we've got here is a piece of silverside or corned beef. You can just use regular beef if you like. Something sharp to cut it with, and some hot sauce. So in this instance I'm using Nando's peri peri sauce in hot. I'll usually use that or the extra hot. And if you look on the back of the nutritional panel, you'll see it's very, very low carb, so pretty safe. If you use some of the other like barbecue sauce, that can be very high sugar content. That's something to look at if you are trying to watch your carb intake. So I've got my beef, I've got my bowl, I've got my sauce, I've got a tray. So what we're going to be using today is a dehydrator. So I think I picked this one up off of Facebook Marketplace for about 50 bucks. I don't think they're much more than that new, but if you don't have a dehydrator, then you can put a wire rack in a low oven and then cook that, because we're gonna pop this beef into the dehydrator for a good 5 or 6 hours. So right, let's get into it. So what we're looking at with the beef is we're looking to see which way the grain goes. So if you can see here, that's running side to side. So if we slice the jerky strips this way, then you're going to be constantly battling to try and get that bite off of there. So what we do is spin that around, and then we've got the grain running through this way, which means that when you can basically tear off or bite off chunks a lot easier than if we cut it that way. So what we're looking for is probably three or 4 mil slices, like so. So I could also cut it through half and get thinner slices if I wanted to. Okay, that's our beef cut. You can pretty much use any meat, any red meat for this that you like. So one thing I didn't mention is, unlike I would normally do, you need to trim the fat off here. And the only reason for that is that it's the first bit that will go off or go rancid. So if you don't chew through it quickly, then it's the fatty bits that will catch you out. But in all honesty, it doesn't hang around our place long enough to find out. So the next phase, grab a bowl, slosh a bit of hot sauce in there, and then get the meat in there. If you're a super hot fiend, then you could add extra chili flakes to this. But like I said before, barbecue sauce is in theory really good, but it is incredibly sugary, you know, like 30 or 40% sugar. So avoid that if you can. If you're not doing low carb or you're not worried about sugar intake, then pretty much any sauce you choose will be fine. Okay, so I've got that in there, and then I give it a good old, oh, look at that. What a magnificent sound. Okay, now some people say you should let that marinate for a while. I generally don't, because I don't think it makes an awful lot of difference. So next phase is we just grab our dehydrator rack or wire rack if you're using the oven, and I lay out the jerky strips, with leaving a little gap between them. That just seems to help it dry out a bit quicker. One little bit. Now I'll pop that into the dehydrator and rinse and repeat. Now initially I'll set that to around 6 hours, and at full temperature. In my particular dehydrator, the bottom seems to dry out a lot quicker than the top, so I will rotate the racks every couple of hours just to make sure everything's evenly dehydrated. So there we have it, our nice easy as beef jerky. Hope you enjoyed that little super quick recipe. Hey Carb Dodgers, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to have a look at a little bit of a game changer. So I found this recipe a little while ago, and my God, does it make a difference. So we're talking about Chaffles, or cheese waffles, I guess. So these have a multitude of uses. You can use each individual chaffle as a carrier for anything you like. You can use two of them together to make a sandwich, so breakfast bacon and egg sandwich. You can use the chaffles as the replacement for the bread, and given it's made of cheese and egg, 100% keto friendly, very low carb. So let's get into it. So you're going to need 1 cup of shredded cheese. I've got mozzarella, can be any shredded cheese. We've got 1/4 cup of almond flour. We've got 3 eggs. We've got 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. Got a little bit of spray olive oil for the chaffle maker, and then you're going to need, unfortunately, you're going to need one of these. So I picked this up from a little box store for, I think it was $10. It's $10 Australian, so what's that, about 4 cents US. And yeah, it just works a treat. So we'll pop that on to warm up. So we'll get our, we'll get our cheese in with the eggs. Get it all mixed around. Get the flour in there. Should probably use a bigger jug. I'm guessing you could add salt and pepper here if you wanted to. I don't really bother because it's more about the chaffle being a carrier for whatever you want to put on top of them. So in with the baking powder. So we're looking for a nice kind of loose batter that's pourable. Don't waste the cheese. Okay, I reckon we're good to go. So pop that one open. Get a little dusting of olive oil just to doubly make sure nothing sticks. And then in this step, less is more. So if you load it up too much, it will just all pour out sides. So I reckon that's looking pretty good. So pop that closed, and then with these things, you'll see steam start to pour out the side. So when the steam stops, you're pretty much done. But I reckon, yeah, probably a minute, 2 minutes, and we should have a chaffle. So do a cut, put in some elevator music. So there's our steam. So how much you cook them is purely down to your preference. So I like them nice and golden, so I'll give it a little bit more time. But we can check. So it's still a bit yellow for me. Whack that on for a bit longer. Give that a tiny bit longer just to get a bit more colour on those. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, that's one. So I'll cook the rest and back to you in a minute. So there we have it, folks. Cheese waffles or chaffles, they're called in some circles. Just a fantastic all-round. You just eat them straight away, put them in the freezer, pull them out when you want them, whack something between there, bacon and egg sandwich perhaps, put toppings over, cream cheese, whatever you like. Super versatile, super tasty, super low carb, and I guess that's what we're all here for. Hey Carb Dodgers, welcome back. Today we're gonna make some keto chocolate brownies, so let's go. So to make this recipe, we've got 1 cup of the good old trusty almond flour. We've got 340 grams of butter. We've got half a cup of cocoa. We've got a little thing at the end. So some keto sugar-free chocolate chips. So I don't know if you can see them. Also safe. We've got a teaspoon of baking powder. We've got a cup of Lakanto monk fruit sweetener, and we have 6 eggs. So first things first, we'll add all the dry ingredients to a bowl. So get the butter out of the way. So the almond flour, the cocoa, the Lakanto monk fruit sugar, the baking powder, and we'll give those a good old mix. I don't know if you should sieve this or not, but I never do. It all seems right. Okay, next we'll get a saucepan, get our butter all over the table. Get our butter into there so you can see where all the goodness comes from. And I will get that on to melt. Okay, while that butter's melting, I'll get my eggs into a bowl. And we'll give those a good whisk. Okay, now our butter is melted nicely, so I'll just add those into the eggs, giving them a good stir. But I won't give them long enough to cook the eggs, because we don't want scrambled eggs. Now we take our wet mix and add it to the dry mix. So what we're looking for here is quite a loose batter almost. It's kind of inevitable with the melted butter and all those eggs. Okay, next I'll grab a baking tin. So the original recipe says 8-inch square. I'll go, I think this isn't quite 8-inch, maybe 7. I'll just give it a light dusting with some spray olive oil. Get my spatula and then get that batter into the tin. Okay, now a little treat right at the end is to add our sugar-free chocolate chips. So I've preheated the oven to 180°C or 350 Fahrenheit, and we're going to give those about, I'd say 15 to 20 minutes. And we'll come back shortly. Okay, that's been about 20 minutes. What I'll do is a quick knife test. See if that draws out clean. It's not quite done, so I'll pop that back in for another maybe 5-10 minutes. Okay, let's give it another try. Yeah, the knife's coming out clean now, so we're done. So next we'll just let that cool right down. You can see it come away from the sides pretty easily. So there you have it, chocolate keto brownies, guilt-free. You can find a bunch of other cheaty type recipes. I've got a playlist on the channel. Please do feel free to subscribe to keep up to date with those and all the other things I'm doing on this low carb journey. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Do feel free to subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can find me on carbsurvivor.com. Thanks for watching. And a mixer, give those a good